So here we are with Harold McGee. Now this, I must admit, Keys to Good Cooking, and of course your original book on food and cooking are Bibles in the food world. And now you don't need to answer that part because I know that's a really tough one. But you're a graduate. You went to the California Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
You were at Yale.
Yeah.
You studied literature. You taught writing.
Yeah.
So how does that transform to being a food science nerd? Shall I say this? I mean, really, what was did you have an epiphany moment?
Well, not a moment, but a brief period of time where I guess the groundwork was laid. So I went to a science school, studied astronomy, and then studied literature, and then ended up in the library in the midst of the TX section of the Library of Congress system, which is food science, where I had never found myself before, and saw titles like cereal chemistry or poultry science, and I thought,
fascinating.
Wow, poultry science, you got to be kidding.
You got,
right?
yeah,
Pull it off the shelf, take a look, and there's a micrograph of an egg showing the structure of the yolk as it changes during cooking, and I thought, this is incredible, this is amazing, I've got to tell my friends about this. And that turned into, I've got to write a book about it.
Do you have a science background though, at anywhere along this?
Yeah, so I went to the California Institute of Technology, planning to be an astronomer, so I've just put a G on the front, and I'm not that far off.
Well done.
And studied astronomy, which means physics, math, chemistry, for 3 years, and then changed my mind because I thought, do I really want to do this professionally 12 hours a day for the rest of my life? And the answer was no. But I went there because I loved science, and I stayed there and got my degree in literature there because I loved science. And so when the time came to realize I was not going to get a job teaching Keats,
which was the title of your thesis, though.
Yeah, Keats and the Progress of Taste.
Progress of Taste,
yes,
exactly.
Yes.
But how, I mean, you wrote your book, the first book on food and cooking, which came out literally the year after we opened the store here in 1983. And I can tell you, food was not at the forefront of everybody's lexicon.
Yeah.
Never mind the chemistry of food. And yet now it really is. So in 1984 your book came out, then you revised it in 2004, 20 years later. Mm-hmm. Now I'm in no way any chemistry nerd, anyway. What happened in 20 years that you felt the need, what changed in food science that you felt the need to revise it 20 years later?
You know, it wasn't so much what happened in food science as what happened in the world of food.
In general.
Yeah, because as you say, food was not that.
No, it was not prevalent, was it?
No. 1983, and by 2000, in fact, by 1994, when I signed the contract to do the revision, the world had changed. So I feel very lucky, as I'm sure you do.
Well, absolutely.
To have caught the wave. Yeah.
And it has been spectacular, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Now, just some more, because I know some people want to ask some questions though too. Some more like rapid fire things that we like to throw. But I mean, when we do it with authors, rapid fire is more like what's your favorite ingredient, what's your these sort of things. But I have one for you. Do you have a favorite cooking an oven temperature? Do you have an oven temperature you love to cook at or use? I bet you've never been asked that, have you?
I have not been asked that.
Yay, we've got something you've never been asked.
And I guess maybe what I would say is 500.
And why?
Fahrenheit. Because it seems to me that the key to good meat and fish often is cooking at a very high temperature to begin with, and then bringing the temperature way down to
long
cook
and
the
slow.
meat through. Yeah.
Right.
And but the key is that initial blast. And
has there been anything that's eluded you, like in your research and what you're doing, that you say, I haven't quite got the answer to that question, has nagged me throughout, sort of thing?
Well, in fact, the subject of my next book is something that has been nagging me for decades, and that is the pleasure of eating. So I'm going to write about taste and smell and flavor.
Okay.
Something that we knew nothing about when I first started writing,
Right.
and we're now learning by leaps and bounds. So I can't wait to get started.
Well, that's exciting. See, I know, and I would think, usually I say at the very end of an interview, what are you working on next? And watch the author just practically faint because they've just, slogged through this one. You're quite good. You're obviously working on things as you go along, as you're doing your research. And
Well,
things like that.
and so I've always wanted to write this book on flavor, but I
Right.
knew I had to do this one first,
Right.
because there was a need for it now. And but what kept me going was not just the vision of being done with this one, but getting the chance to start on the book on flavor.
Do you have a lab? Like, where do you work? Do your most research? Is your own kitchen your biggest resource for a laboratory,
Yeah,
so to speak?
I have an ordinary home kitchen, and I've kept it that way on purpose because
Right.
one of the things I want to do is convince people that they can be scientists in their own kitchen. It's not a matter of knowing protein chemistry. It's your attitude.
Right.
You need to be curious and skeptical about what people tell you can and can't
Yeah,
do,
exploding myths.
and be willing to play with your food.
Willing to play with your food. What a great... I think we all need to do that more, don't we? Play with our food. I can't wait. We did have... Favorite piece of cooking equipment. Do you have a piece or not? do you like?
Probably my hypodermic needle tipped thermometer.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It's truly instant read.
Yeah.
It's a tiny, tiny little thing, and you get an instant
Instant
temperature
read.
reading. So I can start, if I'm checking on a turkey breast,
Right.
start at the outside and kind of do depth soundings every quarter of an inch on my way in, and really get a feeling for what the whole turkey breast is like.
Now, is that
in
something the
Douglas.
home cook
Yeah.
should be looking at too?
Well, if you're interested in details like that, then
Yeah.
absolutely, and they're not that expensive anymore.
Interesting. Well, and we're going to open it up to questions from the floor because I'm sure some people, and I've got other questions too in case, but I'm sure they do have questions. But Deborah, for example, well, first of all, I thank you though, because it's been a treat to meet you finally, because I feel like you say, we've ridden the wave of interest in food and what's happening in food together, and certainly your book both of them are fascinating reading, and I do hope it encourages the new people to not be as fearful in the kitchen, which I think is a good thing. I mean, you're trying to get, discussions about food, but we all, as here at the store too, we want more people to cook too, and I think you're trying to get that as well in what you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things I feel. I wrote this partly because I have kids who are now in their 20s. They love food, they're starting to cook, but they're a little hesitant because they know they like things that are a little complicated, but maybe they don't know enough to do that yet. Just take a deep breath, relax, cook, enjoy it, understand what's going on, and that'll take some of the anxiety away, and we'll all have more
Did you ever
fun.
experiment with the kids and say, try this?
Yes, and they will tell you. Ice creams, they loved.
Yeah.
Bring on the ice creams, but they have told me that they made me promise never again to make lutefisk for them.
Well, and how old were they at that point?
8 to 10 or
Oh,
so.
yeah, well.
Yeah.
Thank you for this. It was terrific, Harold.
Pleasure,
We hope
Alison.
you're back again
Thank you.
soon with lots of answers to our questions that we're never too timid to ask, I think, and you're answering them all, so thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.
Thank you. Now, I know you probably have more questions you want to do, so if you want your book signed, I know some of you have brought some tattered copies.
Michael.
From graduate school, right? It's nice to have something to do.